And there's another one of him. Oop.
There's
I
two
just
others.
realized my mic is on.
There's this, an older one and a younger one.
Oops.
Good evening and welcome to the Town of Rockland Board of Selectmen meeting for Tuesday, April 18, 2023. Please stand and join us in a salute to the flag, pledge of allegiance. Selectman Elwood, would you like to start us off?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be advised that this open meeting is being broadcast live and recorded for playback by WRPS at youtube.com/WRPS Rockland. Please go to WRPSRockland.com for further information. First on the agenda, community announcements. Doug?
Thanks, Mike. I'll just run through three very quick ones before we get to the fourth, which is why I think everybody is probably here in the audience. The first is the high school band Boosters is doing a bottle and can drive fundraiser out in front of Town Hall, Saturday, May 13th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. So we encourage everybody to come turn their cans and bottles in for the high school band Boosters. Next, we wanted to mention there are several vacancies on the town's rent control board. This is a very important board. They need to have a quorum in order to be able to do business. There is an application on the town website, or anyone can certainly come into the town administrator or board of selectmen's office and submit an application. And then lastly, obviously annual town meeting, Monday, May 1st at 7 p.m. And later in the agenda, I'll go through the warrant in a little bit more detail for the public. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Mike.
Okay, thank you, Doug. Okay, so, a few months back, some people came to me, actually a couple of committees in town came to me that, I think they're kind of two of the committees that get a lot of things done, and if they come to you with a suggestion for somebody for Rockland's Best, you certainly make sure you listen. So, we took it under consideration. I messaged a couple of members of the board, and everybody jumped at it immediately upon hearing the name. So tonight, our nomination, the recipient of the Rockland's Best Award is none other than Janet Can. So, prior to Janet's retirement from Rockland Public Schools, she was the Director of Special Education at Rockland Public Schools, and then she was the Director of Guidance for the Rockland Schools. She's a Rockland Academic Hall of Fame Committee member, Rockland Education Foundation Secretary, Rockland Holiday Magic Secretary, Rockland Cultural Council member. She's a Rockland Library trustee. The first Congregational Church projects Janet was instrumental in bringing to Rockland was the all community events, including the Hyannis Sound, Boston Gay Men's Chorus, handbell concerts, and above all, Janet has always been an advocate for Rockland children and families every day. So without any further ado, actually, you know what? Before we bring you up, Janet, I think we've got somebody in the front row that might have a few words to say. Not Jeff Phelps. Nobody wants to hear from Jeff. We know Kimberly's the brains of that operation, but we'll go to Mr. McKinley, Scott McKinley.
Thank you. I'm going to try to stand up, folks.
Or you can hit the microphone there.
I don't want to speak on the microphone. No? I'm used to yelling at kids.
Yes, you are.
I can hold on a little bit.
Perfect.
I wouldn't miss this for the world. I've been very fortunate in a lot of ways, living in Rockland since 1960 and professionally being involved in the system and the community as well. It's been, and right now, as I reach my golden years, and I think they're a little rusty, but I'm there, and I wouldn't be any place else. I love Rockland. I love Rockland kids. All the 60 years I was with the school system in the town, and it's a great place for me to be here. It's like home, and especially when we're talking about somebody who we had direct involvement with in the school system, and came to realize we knew that nobody is indispensable. I mean, you all know that. You're sitting, you have people at home you think are indispensable, right? Then you close your eyes and they're not there, and then you say, "Gee, they weren't indispensable." Well, Janet was as close to being indispensable to Rockland High School. She loved kids. And that's what sold her to me as the principal of the high school when she came. And she still loves kids. When she retired, she went with the Education Foundation. Some of you know about that group. We started that back in 1996 and turned over $1 million in proceeds over for our programs for kids in the Rockland Public Schools, and grants and what have you. I'm advertising, and I'm also proud because Janet was a very big part of that. And if you don't believe me, talk to Donald. I mean, when I called his house, he said, "Where's Janet? Why are you asking me?" In any respect, anytime she leaves an organization such as a foundation, and she did it for good reasons, obviously, she's another stairs to climb in the community to do good. So I'm very proud to be here, and I thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Chairman, and I don't know where she's going to erupt next, but if you do, if you find out, go, you'll enjoy it. Thank you very much.
So Janet, come on up. I know this is the last thing you want to do, but so.
Great introduction, thank you. Yes, only the best for him.
Of course, always. So on behalf of the town of Rockland, the town of Rockland presents Rockland's Best, Janet Can. In recognition of the commitment and dedication to the town of Rockland, the board hereby proclaims Janet Can as Rockland's Best on Tuesday, April 18, 2023. Janet. Oh, you wanted to read it for you? Is that what you said?
No, I can't.
So, yeah, I'll hand you this.
Janet says, "This is such an honor. Thank you all very much. I want to thank the members of the Rockland Education Foundation and Rockland Holiday Magic for this nomination. Thank you to Sue Lonergan and Michael O'Loughlin for making it happen. Thanks to my family for supporting me and all the activities with which I've been involved over the years. Between Dawn and I, you'd wonder how the girls ever got fed. Any accomplishments that I have made have been part of a team effort, a group of hardworking people. We're in a town that is a real community. So many people work so hard to make things good in this town. Everyone in this room contributes to the betterment of Rockland. I consider myself in good company. Thank you again for this very special honor."
Very well deserved. And I think Jess has a presentation for you. That's one for the hallway. So that's the only exciting part of this meeting. So if none of us will take any offense if everybody else is.
Wants to skedaddle.
Well, yeah, there we go. I didn't know you have to say it. So the room is already clearing.
Suck the air out of it.
Right out of it. Right out of it. Once they were done talking, they were
I
just.
know, right?
I think they got nervous you were going to talk, Jeff.
Yeah,
All of them this easy. Thanks, guys.
Mike, when everybody leaves, we have one more community announcement.
Yep.
Are all your meetings as jovial as this?
Once you guys leave the room, forget it. That's when the gloves all come off.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Sorry, ma'am, I don't know what you're trying to talk about, it must be good.
He's a riot.
In the paper.
We'll make sure.
When you were younger, I could touch you. Please, point me along. All right, you're on your own, kid.
All right. Recreation.
He's a riot.
No, the Rockland Recreation.
Keep smiling. Thank you.
Think we're good? Okay. Kathy Kirby, welcome.
Thank you, thank you. I just wanted to thank everyone who came out on Saturday for the Rockland Cleanup Day. We had a great turnout, and thank goodness we had great weather too. So, we'll be doing it again in 6 months. So everybody keep your rakes and keep your grabbers, and thanks again, we really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you, Kathy. Okay, next on the agenda, minutes from April 4th, 2023. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion approved.
I've got a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
I
Can we
abstained.
close the door?
Yep. You got to keep the door open.
Oh,
Open meeting.
oh yeah, right.
Okay,
Gotta
next
talk loud.
Next on the agenda, one-day liquor license request, Article 15 Brewing, Open Air Market, 422, 56, and 916. Allison, welcome.
It's Mike. It's okay.
You can't close the door.
You can. It's not a thing.
Okay.
I checked.
Okay.
You
Okay.
don't have, the door doesn't have to be visible.
Okay. It's we've always been told, but
It's
okay.
on television.
I have it documented.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
Okay, Allison, welcome.
I don't know how I followed that, but
No.
first of all, I want to say congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
So yeah, Article 15 is here with us for opening day on the open air market coming up this weekend.
So Open Air Market was previously called Farmers Market.
Yes, so just to kind of go into it, a little of the issue is if we were to have two standing farms that collect hip and snap, then we would be able to be officially called the Farmers Market. We can use that name, but the idea of how we started wasn't really to just have a farmers market. It was really more to bring kind of like the mom and pops and everybody out, and we really wanted to build the co-op part of it, backyard gardeners, and come and do more of a really local exchange. So for us to get two markets to be called a farmers market and be able to collect hip and snap, we would have to cherry pick them from other markets local to us, and I just didn't, it's not how I work. So we had two. We have one family one. They're still going to come. Their product isn't ready yet, but we do have Rockland Garden Club that we started at the recreation. They'll be coming and selling seedlings to fund being able to buy plants to plant in the planters uptown. We have other backyard gardeners coming, as well as like an herbalist, and there's a cut flower farm that started in Weymouth that will be there. So it'll still be farmers market themed, but with the 40 other vendors of makers in, locally in Rockland.
Okay. Anybody have any questions or comments for Allison?
No.
If you don't mind, could I just give a little information about this weekend?
Absolutely can.
All right, so obviously we're called the Rockland Open Air Markets now. It's at Hartson from 11 to 3. This Saturday is opening day. We have 7 different events throughout the summer. We did take July off. It was a little taxing down there for us last year in the on the field. It was quite hot. So this week it's Earth Day on Saturday, so we're kind of going with that theme. We have Article 15 in the Hive, as well as Casey's Curbside Bistro, Sweetie's Shaved Ice, and Restoration Coffee will be there as well, coming back. We have face painting, henna, tarot card reading by Crystal Lee. Again, the Rockland Garden Club will be there selling minimal seedlings until we're ready to start planting stuff in the ground. A few flowers, herbs, things like that. We also have South Shore Children's Museum, which was located in the Hanover Mall, and they've obviously had to close. They kind of were struggling through COVID, so I've kind of partnered up with Juvie to, she's a nonprofit, so she can get grants and do a lot of things for the kids to kind of keep her name out there. So when she heard it was Earth Day, she was like, let me do it. So she has Joe's Crazy Critters coming down. She also has recycled art. She has Story Walk going through Hartsiv, and then kindness rocks that they'll be painting and stuff like that, and that's all free activities for the kids. We have Rob Hendrickson, who is a Rockland resident, playing live music, and obviously plenty of local crafters and artisans vending.
Cool.
Very good. Okay,
Awesome.
so I will entertain a motion to approve the license
Motion to approve the license
for all 3 dates.
for all 3 days.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Yep.
That's unanimous.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Alice. Okay, next on the agenda, change of officer for 99 Restaurant and Pub, 29 Acorn Park Drive. Anybody here from the 99?
I can speak to this one, Mike. There's no one in attendance tonight, and we understood that coming in. Just to be clear, this is not a local change of manager, this is a corporate change, and it's already been fully approved by the ABCC, so it's really pro forma at this
Okay.
point. So I would recommend approval.
Anybody have any questions, comments, concerns? Okay. Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve?
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, all those in favor?
Yep.
That's unanimous, okay. Next on the agenda, we're actually going to table until the next meeting. The final report wasn't quite ready yet,
Okay.
so we'll bypass that for now. Next on the agenda, other new business not reasonably anticipated. Doug?
I have none.
Okay. Old business, FY24 budget, if needed. Doug?
I was going to mention this one thing under Town Administrator Report, but I could add it here instead under the 24 budget. So if you followed the news, the House just came out with their budget. So we get updates from the Department of Revenue, and they update their preliminary cherry sheet numbers. Starts with the governor's budget. Now they've populated it with the House budget. So nothing significant enough for us to warrant any kind of like emergency last-minute change. But if you're curious about the numbers, and this is compared to the governor's budget, which is how we did our forecasts, our state revenues, they call them receipts, went down by a little over 102,000. But our assessments or our charges from the state only went down by a little over 37,000. So there is a net change to the bad of over $65,000, which I'm not worrying about. There's still the Senate budget, conference committee, see how the final budget shakes out. So not a significant enough change to stress about at this point. And the rest of the budget is in the warrant. So when we talk about the warrant next, if there's any questions, we can go over that.
Okay.
Anybody have any questions, comments, concerns? Okay, we'll move on. Next on the agenda, May 1st, 2023, town meeting warrant. Doug?
So obviously, the warrant's been posted, so therefore, there are no changes. And once it's posted, it's done. Just to highlight again, really for the public's benefit, just a few categories of articles that I think are really noteworthy. Obviously, the budget, always the most important thing to keep our operations going. We have several articles where we're putting in a substantial amount into our various reserve accounts. We're creating an opioid special purpose stabilization fund for our national opioid settlements. We're looking to potentially acquire some land on Carey Street, although as I've mentioned a few times, it's very likely that we'll end up passing that article over because the seller has changed his mind, but it's still on the warrant just in case the seller does go ahead and sign the PNS. We have a number of capital articles that we're funding for various inspectional departments and public safety departments exclusively from marijuana host community agreement funds. And that's nearly $1 million in total. And so those marijuana dispensaries are literally saving Rockland taxpayers nearly $1 million by providing those impact fees. A couple of important articles for the sewer department so they can continue to make infrastructure improvements and stay in compliance with the EPA. And one of them is a little more complicated than normal because we're combining Federal American Rescue Plan Act funds with authorization for the sewer department to borrow. They'll pay the debt service back through the sewer department receipts, which means sewer rates charged to customers. There's two articles that one's going to remove police and one remove fire from the Civil Service Commission, so that's significant. Fortunately, that is wholeheartedly supported by all the unions in the police and fire department, so that is good. We're looking to accept Mount Pleasant Cemetery because it's something that the town needs to do. The current managers were no longer able to do it. And while we tried to acquire a portion of the Spring Lake Cemetery on Reed's Pond previously, we had to take that by eminent domain just because of the lack of title and other legal documents needed. We also have an article that's going to limit the number of marijuana dispensaries in town to the current number of 4 that we've approved. There's two charter updates. Actually, there's really technically only one charter update. That's to create the gender-neutral language that we talked about. The other things kind of related to the charter are actually going to be handled as other town meeting articles. It won't technically be a charter amendment. So the one specific one with gender-neutral language is very important. And then the last two articles are very interesting. One is the update to the South Shore Regional Technical Schools Regional Agreement. The main driver of that is to bring in Marshfield. There's some other technical corrections. If anyone has any questions about that, the official document, the red line version that shows all the changes, is on file in the town clerk's office. Anybody's welcome to come and inspect that if they'd like to see more detail. And then last but not least, we have the fire department debt exclusion. And if I can, Mike, I'd like to just talk very briefly about that, because I know there's been some questions in the community, although I feel like I've spoken about this repeatedly, but I think it bears continuing to make sure we're very clear with the community about this. So it was on the ballot on April 8th. It obviously failed to get a simple majority at the ballot. It was roughly a 55%, 45% split opposed to the project. It is still on the town meeting warrant. The ballot does not determine what goes on the warrant. Those are two separate things. The Board of Selectmen decides what goes on the ballot, and the Board of Selectmen decides what goes on the warrant. For a debt exclusion to pass, it needs both things to pass. Simple majority at the ballot, 2/3 at town meeting. So while it failed at the ballot, it's still on the town meeting warrant. If it fails at town meeting to get the required 2/3, then the project is obviously not going to be moving forward until someday something gets revisited. If it does get the required 2/3 majority, at a later Board of Selectmen meeting, we should put on an agenda and the board should discuss and deliberate whether you feel comfortable placing that on a second ballot before the voters sometime after the town meeting vote. I know there's been some question about why is that dishonest or not transparent, and it's completely honest and it's completely transparent, and the law is very clear. There's no limit on the number of times that a ballot question can be asked. The only legal constraint is that if an article is contingent on a debt exclusion, on a ballot debt exclusion, and the article is voted at the annual town meeting, which is what our Monday, May 1st town meeting is, in order for this to move forward, there will need to be a successful ballot vote by September 15th. That's per Mass General Law, Chapter 59, Section 21C. So that will be a decision. Wait till after town meeting to see if that's relevant or not. But just to be clear, there's a variety of reasons why you may choose to do that or may not. Generally, often in most communities, town meeting comes first and then you have the ballot after. So people have the benefit of having the discussion at town meeting, seeing the presentation, the questions and answers and all that to make the most informed decision. So personally, I feel like there's a very good argument to be made if people go to the ballot first without the benefit of all that information and vote no. And then later, people go to town meeting and have the benefit of all the information and they vote yes. You have conflicting votes. You can almost think of it like a tiebreaker, have a definitive vote. But again, that's completely at the discretion of the Board of Selectmen. And again, the only rules would be that if you decide to do it, you would have to notify the town clerk at least 35 days in advance of the election. You have to call the special election and would have to occur by September 15th. So that's really all I have, unless there's any questions on the warrant or on that particular item. I'm happy
Anybody
to
have
try
any
to-
questions for Doug on anything you just presented?
No.
None? Okay. Okay, next on the agenda, other old business not reasonably anticipated. Doug?
I have none.
Okay. Next, town administrator's report and correspondence. Doug?
All right, so I've already taken care of my first two items. I wanted to highlight for the community, I think the board already knows, I did participate in an MMA webinar back on April 6th relating to the change in state law for marijuana host community agreements and the potential regulations that the Cannabis Control Commission is going to put out. They have a direct link right on the homepage of the MMA website in case anyone from the community is interested in learning more. They had 3 different categories of discussion, 3 different panels. So I was on the first panel dealing with the financial aspects of host community agreements. I've talked about that a lot. I don't need to repeat it again tonight, but I was with 2 other towns, all of the communities, the MMA, everyone's completely united, hoping the Cannabis Control Commission will have 2 tracks, grandfather or hold harmless existing agreements and have a different approach for new ones. The next category dealt with the whole equity provision in the law that deals with trying to get groups that were previously disenfranchised by the prior drug laws to enable them to be in a position where they can actually reap the benefits of having some kind of owner equity stake in dispensaries. And then the last thing is actually fascinating, I think, from a public policy perspective, which is social consumption. So the law does allow, just like you have a bar where you can go to a bar and legally buy an alcoholic drink, there could theoretically be cafes where you go to a cafe and you're legally able to consume cannabis, just like they have it in Amsterdam and Holland. So there's obviously a lot of details that will have to be worked out. That's something that communities can opt in. It's not a requirement that communities have to have that. In talking to the police chief, I think there's a number of concerns that we would have about having that in Rockland. So there's a lot more to be discussed, and if you want to know more about that, you can certainly watch that third session in that MMA webinar. But it was pretty interesting, and I was happy to be able to participate. I'm told and hopeful that the Cannabis Control Commission was going to actually watch a recording of that later, which would be helpful because that is certainly part of the audience. The whole idea with this is to help inform the Cannabis Control Commission on the reality for communities like Rockland that stand to lose millions of dollars if they interpret this law a particular way. Next, I wanted just to highlight that I was working with the town accountant and with our assistant administrator to do our annual filing with the federal treasury on the ARPA funds. And again, there's two sources of ARPA funds: funding we get directly from the federal treasury, and then the ARPA funding that comes through the county. So we do not have to take care of the reporting for the money that flows to the county. The county's doing that. But for the money that comes directly to us, we've taken care of that, so we are in full compliance with federal reporting. Next, I wanted to hire as it relates to the town planner hiring, which we've not been successful in doing thus far. We have engaged Community Paradigm Associates, Bernie Lynch, who's the most prestigious recruiter in the state for management level municipal positions. He's currently engaged in another community's town planner search, and so we might be able to reap the rewards of a larger effort. So it's time to try something a little bit different, you know. Under normal circumstances, we wouldn't have had an issue, but the economy has changed, so I think it'll be a good investment. Next, I wanted to mention our annual town reports are available. They're online on the town website to download, as well as hard copies available in all the town buildings, including right out in front of here at Town Hall. And then lastly, I just wanted to mention that I will be out of the office starting on Tuesday, May 2nd, through the following week, May 12th. I'll be going down south for my son's college graduation, so I will be out of the office for a bit. Jen will be here, so you'll be in good hands.
That happened fast.
And it
no
happened
kidding.
fast. Picking up a freshman and
Yeah,
going to the senior's graduation.
that's crazy.
Wow.
Wow.
Congratulations.
Time flies. Thank you. That's all I have.
Okay. Next on the agenda, thank you, Doug. Selectmen's comments. Comments and opinions expressed by individual members do not necessarily reflect the views of the Board of Selectmen and are the opinions and comments of only the individual member. Well, Selectman Elwood, since you are the new member, you
Okay.
get to go first.
First, I want to thank everyone who came out to vote. I appreciate the support, and I look forward to serving the town for the next 3 years. Secondly, I just want to mention the committees, Rent Control, Finance Committee. We need help. We just can't be the same people all the time. Step up and get involved, ask questions, and come to town meeting. That's where everything is decided. Whether you're for something, against something, come and spend a couple hours doing your civic duty, for a lack of a better way of putting it. Stay for all 84 articles. Make sure everything goes the way you're hoping it will go. And that's pretty much it.
Thank you, John. See, that wasn't so hard, right? Pretty easy, right?
My face is probably bright.
I know, everybody gets nervous like that first time, and then there's nobody in the audience, and you're just like, okay, where do I even look? You know?
They're out in the virtual one.
Yeah, and then you try to look at the camera at the same time, and it's just, then that's when you really suck in
Where's the
bright
camera?
red. Up in the corner
Oh,
there.
oh, yeah, okay.
And behind you, so
Oh.
be careful what you write in your paper.
Yeah.
Okay, Selectperson Childs.
Thank you. Well, I'd like to welcome you to the board, John. I look forward to working with you.
Same.
And I would also like to thank all the volunteers that cleaned up the rail trail and the rest of Rockland this weekend. It was awesome. Thank you so much. I'm glad they're doing it every 6 months. I'd like to also send a shout out to Allison Dowie. She's a resident of Leisure Woods. Her son, Stu Dowie, is a drummer in the heavy metal band Kingdom of Tyrants, and they just, on the 20th, they're releasing their new album, and it's probably going to be a really, really big deal. I mean, there's a chance that they might open for Metallica when they're at Gillette. So I hung out with Allison over the weekend, and it was really exciting. We had a listening party, and like 300 people showed up. It was crazy. So anyway, okay. And now down to brass tacks. I just wanted to talk about my feud or war with the Sewer Commission. I really don't want it to go on. The residents of Rockland for years have put up with questionable leadership. Okay, Greg Thompson and the embezzling debacle with the Sewer Commission, Alan Shaka's sex scandal, the internal nepotism that resulted in egregious raises for years by department heads, and the general irresponsibility of kicking the can down the road. So our generation has to, take care of sewer and water and a fire station, and instead of kicking it down the road for our children. So consequently, this is what I want to say. Everyone I've worked with on this board, Kara, Donna, Tiffany,
Mike.
yeah, and Mike. Sorry.
She's looking at me.
Yeah, sorry, I'm menopausal.
No problem.
Yeah. So I guarantee holds your welfare as our highest priority. We, along with Doug, Jen, and Stacy, are striving to professionalize Rockland while moving forward into a more economically thriving town. Some examples. We've established a charter review committee to look at a charter that hasn't been changed in decades. We're looking at graded pay scales so everybody knows what to expect when they come to work for Rockland. Community outreach projects like the several that we had for the new fire station. So in many ways, we're working to professionalize the town. Okay? The goal is to change the ratio of businesses to residents to bring our taxes down as residents. Like, for instance, my friend in Canton has the same approximate value of his home as I do, plus he's right on a lake, and he pays about $5,500 in property taxes per year, while I'm at roughly $9,500. We're in a pickle in Rockland, as I hear over and over again that folks are being priced out of town and can't afford to live here, and that we have an unappealing uptown. So despite being advised by some to have more patience, being jeered at and experiencing derogatory name-calling by others, I will always point out when residents are getting the short end of the stick. Okay, that being said, the Sewer Commission has requested I step down as liaison for their board, to our board. I not only research grant money for them, watch their meetings, advocate for them to have free money, help them along the learning curve of municipal finance by strategizing with my board for their needs. I also call them to the carpet when residents have questions, like, how did the cost of a new sewer plant jump from $50 million to $80 million? That's a lot. Why was $130,000 given back to a developer? The commission's claiming that they did not accept the fees, but that's not true. There was a meeting in which they voted to give it back. One must first accept fees in order to give them back. They said that they did not okay the fee or vote for it, but the developer was fine with it. It was returned, in my opinion, over pure ego, and which constitutes a private agenda rather than what's best for residents. So they can use any logic they want, but the bottom line is, to make up the difference, it comes out of our pockets one way or another. Let's spend resident dollars wisely. Mr. Hessian, you can publicly yell at me all you want and demand that we discuss these things in an open meeting, during an open meeting, but consider the optics of that. The commission chooses to pay outside vendors for tasks that a superintendent is responsible for. The good news is that they're not micromanaged by Chuck. The bad news is that all of the past superintendents have been. That's the real reason no one wants to interview here for that position. Chuck wrote to me that I, quote, came very close to suggesting the reputable engineering firm contracted by the sewer department is not honest or cost effective. This is embarrassing to the town and could result in a lawsuit. To the contrary, Wright Pierce, I'm sure, would never risk their reputation by conducting themselves unethically. Also, what does coming very close to suggesting mean? My only question is why 80 million? It seems like a huge amount. Our entire school project was 83 million, and around half of that was paid through grants. So, his next thing was with the 67,500 gallons of I&I that I questioned them, are they going to remove it or not? He answered me that they are currently removing it, and I'm thrilled to hear that that work has begun. Has been discussed for more than a year, and it's really a banner way to celebrate the start of Chuck's 7th year on the commission. Finally, through a game of telephone, the commission heard that at the last public zoning meeting for Union Point, I referred to our current sewer department as a S show. This is untrue. I referred to our current sewer situation as an S show, in the context of advocating for residents and asking the developers of Union Point if they would consider paying for and building a sewer plant to service the homes and businesses on the Rockland part of the base, to which they answered yes, they would consider that. I know the Sewer Commission has their heads in the right place for their most part. Sherry Valley is doing a great job keeping up with the budget and trying to keep the commission within it. However, when I was running for this board, the concerned citizens approached me and said they'd fully support me if I used my voice for their agenda. They and Chuck were adamant that the sewer situation in Rockland was alarming and that raw sewage, before long, would be shooting out of people's bathtubs and toilets. This is unfounded, but coupled with the 2 recent overage situations, I would call that an S show. Therefore, I officially step down as sewer liaison for our board, and I invite our board to consider other options. What I plan to do moving forward is to fundraise my tail off for a new firehouse and put the old building back on the tax rolls by developing it into something fabulous. Remember, the more thriving businesses we have in Rockland, the lower our residential taxes will be. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Lori. Select Person Shorto.
I'd like to remind the voters how important it is that people show up for town meeting. I have for years worked in town hall and listened to people complain about how their taxes are going up, and when you ask them if do you go to town meeting, do you vote on these things, they don't. If you are not going to be part of the solution, if you're not going to work toward the solution, you can't complain about the problem. You need to be present. You need to look at what's going on in your town. You need to show up. You have to go to town meeting. You have to go to town elections. You have to decide what you want in your town. And for years, we've had to change the quorum how many times, lowering it so that we can get enough people to show up to vote. This is your town. This is my town. I've lived here forever, because I'm old. So, but we all live here. This is our town. We need to take part. We need to take part in the process so that we can be part of the solution and not just complain about the problem. So please, town meeting is coming up. Make yourself available. Show up. Vote. So that when your taxes do go up, you know why. And you've had an active part in the process. I've been saying it for years and years. I will say it again because it is important. That's why I sit here. I listened to the people who said, we need to do this, we need to do that. I come every other Tuesday night and I sit on this board because I care about this town. Please, go to town meeting, have a say. It's your town too. That's it, I'll stop. I'll
Thank
get
you.
off my soapbox now.
That was fine. That was good. Thank you, Donna. I don't have much. I just want to thank everybody that came out to vote last Saturday. It's been a week now already. That flew. I appreciate everybody's support over the years, obviously, and look forward to serving again for another 3 years. And also, it's the weather's getting nicer outside, and the rec department has been doing an amazing job having events seemingly every weekend. I actually participated in the adult Easter egg hunt the other day at the stadium, and actually came away with the grand prize winner. I got the egg that had the gas grill in it, so that was it's pretty good. Everybody claimed it was rigged, but it was dark out, and I just picked a random egg, so I don't know how that could be the case. But yeah, so perfect. I needed one anyway. So, but with that said, just get out there, support small business and the small businesses that participate with the rec department in town. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor? Roll call vote. Selectperson Childs?
Yes.
Selectperson Shortall?
Yes.
Selectman Elwood?
Yes.
And myself. Thank you. Good night.